This is the Wake Up Call segment. We have on the phone this morning with us, he is the General Secretary of NATUC and SWWTU President, Mr. Michael Annisette. Good morning, Mr. Annisette.
Yeah, pleasant morning to you and the listening public.
I know you're not in the country, and so we're
Yes,
happy to
yes,
have
yes,
this phone
yes, yes.
conversation with you this morning. My question is to
Yeah.
you, it's based on the JSL International. What's happening with the employees there, because they have lodged complaint, alleged complaint?
No, well, I want to take the conversation further than that of the employees. And while we have been having a lot of complaints coming in from employees in terms of the treatment of the company, in terms of allegations being made that the NIS benefits and statutory deductions are not being paid in. All right, the bigger issue to me and that of the National Trade Union Center is that we continue to believe that in our country, the issue of integrity in business is being bypassed. And we are witnessing what I want to call a disturbing business trend in the oil and gas sector when companies, who are issuing contracts are not paying attention to the basic fundamental principles of dignity and respect for workers. Because how do you explain, in the light of the several allegations that has been made against GSL International in terms of the business practice, in terms of how they relate to the workers, that contracts are being still awarded to that company, and there is no manner of investigations into the allegations that has been consistently made against this company. There are complaints going back as far as 2017. And you need to ask yourself the question whether or not that is the kind of business practice that we want in Trinidad and Tobago, where the question of justice, where the question of the rules of law is not respected, and where it appears that we are dealing with tin gods, and the workers are left to suffer. We want to warn, right, that when we allow dignity and honesty and respect to be compromised, and when we allow misguided and questionable companies, business practices, right, to be awarded contracts, we believe we are sowing the seeds of discontentment, of frustration, and disharmony in Trinidad and Tobago. And the question that we are asking NATU is more about the moral fiber of our society. Is that the kind of Trinidad and Tobago that we want? Because we believe we must now start to talk about a new politics, a politics that speaks to respect of human beings, a politics that speaks to respect to our rules, laws, and regulation, a policy where workers' rights will be respected. And you see, as I continue to say, the issue of the world of work cannot and must not be separated under no form, right, from justice, fairness, integrity, ethical standards, and behavior. And then that is what we are facing in Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, NATO believes we have the moral responsibility to pick up those issues, because we have to save the fabric and the soul of Trinidad and Tobago, because what is being practiced, what we are seeing, is disturbing, and the whole question of the arrogance of power, right? We are saying no longer have a place in this modern, enlightened business world. All right, and then the labor supply companies and the people who are giving contracts out to this company must be held to a higher standard. We must hold them to the ground, and we must ask the pertinent questions. And that is what we are doing in the National Trade Union Center. we believe that we have a responsibility to raise those issues because it is frightening, it is disturbing to see and to know the kind of behaviors and the serious allegations that is being made against GSL International, and they are still getting contracts in Trinidad and Tobago. And let me add, I haven't yet checked it, but I understand that the contract that was awarded in Suriname has now been withdrawn in Suriname. Okay, but as I said, I haven't yet substantially checked that as yet. But I want to put it in the public domain that if that is so, it would have speak to the issues that we are raising. Because what we would have done in NATO, we would have sent out letters to our colleagues both in Suriname and in Guyana, where GSL is operating, pointing out to them what are the issues that we are having with GSL International, and we are asking for what you call international support, and they have pledged that they will do the investigations and lend the support to Natuk as we continue to hold GSL and the other foreign companies that give them the contracts to a much higher ethical standard. And then we believe ethics and integrity must be part of our DNA and how we do business in Trinidad and Tobago if we have to have a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Annisette, what about the extension of the third-party vendors? So have you made any sort of contact with them?
Well, some have been talking to us, and it is frightening to me, I say, that while they are giving us information and while they are supporting what we are saying, they are frightened, right? They do not want to come in the public domain because they are afraid that given all what is happening, that they may be victimized as a consequence for standing up for their rights. And that speaks volume. It tells you about the agencies in which we operate in Trinidad and Tobago. When you have a society, if you have a country where people cannot stand up and express a view in defense of their particular situation, and when there is this real fear of speaking out on the consequences, it doesn't augurs well for a society that we want that speaks about social justice, right? So I am concerned about it. But the fact is that Natuk has taken on the matter. Natuk believe that there must be justice. Natuk believe that there must be morality in our business. Natuk is saying that we must have a moral revolution in our society. If we have to change our society, if we have to help our youths, we must have that concept of integrity because we believe that, integrity is the mother milk of any business and any development in any country. And therefore, we are going to be focused on those issues. The issue is bigger than money. The issue is about the soul and the fabric of our society. And therefore, we're going to see a new kind of trade union approach, a new kind of politics, a politics that really put the people first, a politics that put integrity first, a politics that speaks to the heart, the mind, and the soul of the people, and a politics where you cannot divorce companies from ethical standards and behavior in terms of how they do business in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Annisette, I know that there was alleged stuff that the employees had informed you about. Is it okay that you can just brief us on?
Yeah, well then, as I was saying, let me give you some examples. There are allegations that has been made that deductions are being made NIS.
Right.
And when you go to the NIS, there is no payment. That's a breach of a law in Trinidad and Tobago. We are aware that up to this week, a video was sent to me where one of the employees was complaining that he has been paid his severance from since 2017 rather. But what is important in the allegations is that we are aware that the foreign company would have made the payment to GSL International. It is alleged, but they failed to make the payments to the workers. And then and all the issues that is standard in the oil and gas industry, because I want to remind the general public, I'm a member of the ITF, International Transport Federation, which represents over 5 million maritime and sea people and dock workers, anything in transport. We are recognized as the international body, and there are rules and regulations and standard procedures that governs how you interface with companies and workers in that oil and gas sector. And let me give you an example. Now, there are money that is paid for training, and they have determined that they're not going to pay for training. There are monies that is paid that if a job is to be completed in 10 days, okay, and you finish it in 8 days, there is an agreement that the 2 extra days will be treated as an incentive for the contributions of the workers, and monies are being allocated for that, and workers are not sharing in that benefit. So then, therefore, there's a whole series of issues and complications that I mean is mind-boggling. And then we are saying then there is a need to examine the business practice, all right, of that company. Why it is? Because I mean the thing is mind-boggling. Why it is that there is so much complaints, because I could recall that the OWTU also led a protest against that very said company,
Yes.
given their conduct and their behavior as it relates to the workers and as it relates to basic industrial relation principles that is practiced worldwide.
So,
And those are facts. Those are facts. And workers would have protested in 2017. A group of workers in front of the company demanding that they want their severance pay. Workers were complaining because they stood up for their rights. Their services were terminated and they hire new people under much unfavorable terms and conditions, as is accepted in the maritime sector and the gas and oil sector.
so Ms. Annie said this seems to be a norm with JSL International, correct?
Yes, it
Right.
appears.
So
No,
you,
well, no. Well, it's not given the allegation that has been made, and there's no attempt to refute the allegation. One will have to conclude that there are merits in the allegations that are being made, because how will a group of workers go and protest in front of the company saying they haven't been paid their benefits that is due to them? Will they be making that out? And that was carried on social media, and it was carried by the Guardian network. The issue of OWTU joining with the workers to protest the conditions
yes.
and the behavior of the company is a reality. So then, if one judges from those two issues alone, and the fact that a group would have come to the National Trade Union Center crying out in the wilderness, begging, for us to intervene, says something that something is not well in the state of Denmark.
I know you have also called on the government to investigate what's happening. Have you gotten any feedback thus far from any minister?
No. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten any feedback in that particular issue yet. We haven't gotten an acknowledgement, but I'm rest assured on my return to Trinidad and Tobago that NATUC will be issuing a direct letter to the Minister of Labour, the Minister of Energy,
Okay.
all right, for them to intervene. And all we are asking is to do an independent investigation to determine whether or not there is any substantial or material evidence to support what is being said.
Right.
And if there is, right, and let us further determine whether the conduct of JSL International is something that we want in an enlightened industrial world as part of our approach to our business. Those are the issues. And whether or not we have to hold the international company, the BHP, the Valeris and these other companies to a much higher standard and hold them accountable, right, for what is happening. Because we are seeing in the National Trade Union Center, how could you? How could you? I mean, this is the question. Allow that kind of disrespect to workers. How
Yeah.
could we allow that to happen in a modern society that speaks of democracy? And then what we are seeing is a two-faced kind of behavior, because when these international companies and the governments talk about, and the government rather, not the government, talk about the question of integrity in public life, ethical behavior, good governance, and we allow a company that is being alleged to be not practicing that. That is the very antithesis of the very principle that the government and the companies are talking about. And then therefore we are seeing in Natuk, we are seeing what we'll call a double face,
Yeah.
right? A two-person. You say one thing, but yet the practice is something different. And that is the issue. That is the core issue, you know. That is the issue that we as a people must demand that the government respect. We have to hold them accountable. We have to set much more higher ethical standards in our society if Trinidad is to get out of the morass that we are into. The whole issue of corruption and the research will have shown that destroys a society. If you don't have corruption, you will have better hospitals, you will have a better transport system, you will have better schools, you will have much more money to see about the things, right, that affects the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The whole issue of going to the hospital and getting the proper drugs and the service for those workers who would have retired and given their lives to Trinidad and Tobago, and they are now in the twilight. Do we have an opportunity, or do we have a responsibility, should I say, to those groups of people who would have given their lives? Why must we allow the whole concept of corruption, the whole concept of a cabal, the whole concept of a few people benefiting everything to destroy a nation?
Ms. Annisette.
Are we saying that is the correct approach to how governance and how you run a country? We are saying no in NATUC, and that is the issue that NATUC is going to be confronting, because it is one about morality, it is one about integrity, it is one about corruption, and we are saying that we are taking the moral ground and we are going to confront all those who practice those kinds of behavior and all who believe that the arrogance of power gives them the right to respect our people, our youths, our society, and the people who live in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Annisette, have you engaged in any conversation with the president of NATUC, Mr. Watson Duke, in regards to
Yes,
whether
yes,
he's...
and let me place on the public record that I am so enthused and so happy and so encouraged by his response,
Right.
because he understands what I'm speaking about. He understands that we need a better Trinidad and Tobago. He understands that governance and running a country is about the people. It's not about a few people. And therefore, he would abide into the whole question of not to taking the kinds of stand that is necessary to protect the interests of any worker or any citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. But more importantly, he understands that the question of morality in our public life, the question of integrity, the question of challenging corruption, the question of taking on the cabals and the friends and finances of politicians and the party is an issue that we cannot leave for anybody else. And we have a moral responsibility to so do. And we understand too, and he understands that in any struggle, it's going to be long. It wouldn't happen overnight. Yes, you may have some sufferings, but to struggle, we are going to struggle as Natuk. And I want to, publicly thank him for expressing that view and for supporting the whole concept and the idea of building a better Trinidad and Tobago for our people and our youths and our children.
So do you think the country should look forward to another massive demonstration from NATUC regarding GSL
Yeah,
International?
well then, what we are doing, we will want to educate the public because you see, the Trinidad and Tobago is so tied up in the context politics by ethnicity, politics by race, that we have to start to educate our people to understand that the changes in our society has nothing to do with election. It has nothing to do with no political party. It has to do with the communities, and it has to start with issues that is affecting the communities, and therefore our involvement in the changes is necessary and is important if we are serious about having a better Laventille, a better Maloney, a better Caranage, right? Better schools for our children, better educational system where we are sure that when people leave school, they can read and write. They
Yes.
will be able to fit into the world of work. Those are the issues, that is affecting Trinidad and Tobago. And while we are seeing people with thousands of dollars, we are seeing some houses with 4 and 5 cars. There are people in Trinidad and Tobago, in the Moruga area, and in several areas that we have visited that cannot eat chicken or proteins every day. They have to wait on a Sunday, and some cannot even get it on a Sunday. Is that the kind of society that we want? These are realities that we are talking about, that politicians sweet quote and don't address the real issues that are affecting the community. Do we need a swimming pool in Laventille to solve crime? How did we arrive at that? Those are fundamental issues, right?
Yeah.
What are the core problems that are affecting Laventille? And will a solution come about because you have a swimming pool and you have the police and the army and the coast guard, right, managing the swimming pool? We are saying in Natuk that's an insult to our intelligence.
Yes.
That is just sugarcoating the issues, and therefore our role right now is to educate the population, put the facts on the table, so that when, yes, we call for the next march, that it will be something that resonates in the minds of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and it must not be seen as Natuk marching for money for its member, but it must be seen as Natuk trying to save the soul, the very essence of Trinidad and Tobago, which is the people.
So you're saying, Mr. Annisette, that the money that was invested for the swimming pool in Laventille, it should not have been for the swimming pool, it should have been for something else to curb crime and stuff like that?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. I mean, let us be serious. Crime is rampant in Trinidad and Tobago. Laventille, given the report that was done, right, speaks about Laventille being the underbelly, all right, and it could create all kinds of social issues. The question of guns, the question of drugs, the questions of youths. I mean, shooting one another. And let me be brutally frank: young black children shooting one another. Go in the prisons and you're going to see what I'm speaking about. Who is inside there? And then why? Are you going to tell me that building a swimming pool in Laventille going to address those fundamental and serious core issues that is affecting Laventille? Let us be serious. Let us be serious. Because if a swimming pool would have been the solution to crimes
Yes.
within the countries, well, all we need to do is to go in Maloney and all these other areas, and then build a swimming pool, and there will be a drop of the drug trade. There will be a drop of the guns coming into the country. One has to understand that Trinidad is a transshipment point, and therefore the question of drugs, the questions of guns, is part of the very trade in drugs, bearing in mind that we are a transshipment point. That is a reality. And then therefore we cannot use diversionary tactics, you understand, in which to address the issue of crime. Let us address the issue of crime. And we in Natuk, we are saying that a swimming pool cannot and will not solve the issue of crime. It it cannot. Lavantil would have produced a lot of cultural icons, sports people that would have come out from Lavantil, but it hasn't done anything for Lavantil. So that is a short-sighted approach in our view to addressing the issue of crime, and that money would have been better spent in ensuring that the mothers who are unemployed there, the parents who have to fight day to day to determine whether or not they could put a plate of food on the tables for their children, who has to fight day to day to determine whether they have sufficient money to pay for the children passage to go to school. Those are the social issues that are confronting Lavantil. And I'm saying a swimming pool cannot do that. We need to empower the community. We need to ensure that we develop the entrepreneurial skills of the people in Lavantil. We have to ensure that we develop a system where it speaks to getting employment for those young people and single parents. We need to talk about how do we train the young people in Lavantil and all over Trinidad and Tobago as a matter of fact. The whole issue of good morning, the whole issue of yes sir, no sir. Why that my song as colonial, but that is training the minds of the young people. And it reminds me of a statement that was made by Hitler. And what Hitler said, Hitler said that give me a child that is 5 years old, and I will take his mind and I will make him beholden to me for the rest of his life. The point that I'm making, that we have to start to train our children and inculcate in their minds a behavior, a pattern by example that will nurture the child and develop the child mind, where they will understand what is education, they will understand what is integrity, they will understand that corruption is not a good thing, they will understand that violence is not a good thing. And I'm saying that we can do it, but we have to have a different approach. And we are saying that the approach of building a swimming pool in Lavantil cannot and must not be the approach.
Mr. Annisette, what is the current situation with these employees at JSL? Are they still conducting their duties?
Well, as I would have said, let me give you an example. We discovered, and we are doing some research on it, that the same JSL International set up their own union, and the union headquarters is in Shugonas, where the owner Javid had his
Right.
first house. Isn't that strange? Doesn't that
Very.
say anything? Right? Further, we have been told, as a way of ensuring that no union comes into his company, that he would have registered, and we are doing the research and investigations in that every category of worker into separate companies. Isn't that strange? If that is so, isn't that strange? And
Yes.
isn't that a classical case of union busting? So then I am just telling you, you have to understand the operatives of this individual and then what is happening. And therefore, we are saying it is a contradiction in the sense that how could the company allow, and I'm talking about the international companies, the Valaris and all these other companies, right, allow this to happen? How could you reward that kind of behavior when there are companies who are behaving professionally, who are honoring all the laws and regulation, and those companies are being put at the wayside? What message are you telling people in Trinidad and Tobago? That you are rewarded when something is wrong, and then when you do the right thing, you are not rewarded? The question that I ask, is that what we want in Trinidad and Tobago? I'm saying no. I'm saying no. Allow me to answer my own question. I'm saying no, that is not what we want
Yeah.
as a people. And I'm therefore the trade union movement and NATU has mandated and NATO is determined that we will start a new revolution of values, of moral values in Trinidad and Tobago. Right? We have to reach to that mountaintop. We have to stand up and say, free at last. Thank God Almighty that we are free at last. And I say we can do it collectively. Because there's a saying that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And
Yes.
we need people to understand that changes do not come about by politicians. Do not get tied up with the parties and them. You have to understand that the changes is internal and the changes start with you as a people. And that is what politicians do not want the general population to understand, because you must always be beholden to the politicians. You know, they give you a little house, all right, they give you a little CPEP contract, and then that and all is being questioned because the word outside there that even the CPEP contract is now being controlled by big business and finances and them. That is what is being alleged outside there. And then therefore, I mean, we have a responsibility as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to work for a better Trinidad. And I'm saying that we can do it as a people. We can do it. Let us understand that the thing starts with us, and voting in the local election every 5 years is not democracy.
Right.
That is not democracy. Democracy is empowering the very people, and we must understand that the politicians has been elected to work for us and not the other way around. That is now being practiced in Trinidad and Tobago. And how, I mean, let us talk, let us be honest. How do you justify the attempts by the government to change the information, the Freedom of Information Act, without any consultation whatsoever with the people that will be affected by such changes? And the government withdraw after civil society, the trade unions, and all democratic loving people pen a letter saying enough is enough. Isn't that saying something? How do
A
we
lot.
justify? How do we justify now that the government comes to put a property act now that the law association saying that is not well thought out and will bring hardship on the poor people of Trinidad and Tobago? Again, there was no consultation. How do you justify that a government put in increased pension benefits for the prime ministers and retired judges, etc., in the light and in the fact that there are daily rated workers who have been struggling in the vineyard for more than 20 years for a pension plan which has not yet been realized. How do we justify that? Is it that Parliament is just for the certain few, and then the workers who are without a pension plan, right, is left to language? Come on, come on, come on. If we are serious about a new society, and that is what we are talking about, if people are the center of everything, as the party said, how do you justify that? How do you justify, in the light of all what is happening, that you have not yet increased wages of workers for as much as 2007? Okay? Workers are asked to make all the sacrifices. Wages from 2012. Workers are living on 2012 wages in 2019 when everything has gone up. All right. And then we are seeing certain people being awarded big, major contracts. And it's like a Boy Scout Association is only a few companies who are being awarded these contracts. And we are doing some research on Calco.
I
We are
know. I
doing
know.
some research and we put Calco on notice that Natuk is coming for them. They will have to answer a lot of questions because this very government in opposition condemn Calco, all right,
Yes,
in
Mr.
terms of the business practice, and I'm questioning Calco. But when they come in power, the very same Calco that they condemn, all right, is getting all the contracts. I mean, come on. That is the contradiction and the two-phase that I was talking about. How How do you justify that in opposition? Calco was all wrong. It wasn't good for Trinidad and Tobago, and as you come into power, Calco continues unabated, getting all the contracts.
I wish to
And we
continue
to
this
ask
conversation with
serious
you, Mr.
questions.
Annisette. When you return to
What's that?
Trinidad, I wish to continue this conversation with you when you return to Trinidad because I
Yes,
know
I
we're
will.
pressing
I
on
really
time.
will
So
like.
I'm just going to ask you for your
I will.
closing comments.
All right, my closing comments will be to assure and reassure the people of Trinidad and Tobago that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, we have to make sacrifices. Yes, things are bad, but we cannot give up. We must not give up. We must work collectively as a community and as a people to bring about the changes that we want. We must be able to determine the kind of society that we want for our children. We want for Trinidad and Tobago, and we must not allow that the business community with the politicians, the business elites, and the financiers to dictate and determine the kind of Trinidad that we must have. That is our responsibility. And we owe that to our children, and we owe that to ourselves, and we owe that to the sacrifices that has been made by our
That.
yeah. The
Thank
pleasure is all this mine, and cannot wait to get back in beautiful Trinidad and
Yes.
Tobago. And I know we can have a much better Trinidad and Tobago where our constitution, right, is we lift it, where every creed and race finds an equal place. That mustn't be talk. It must be a reality. And that is what NATUC with the President Jukan and Vice President Lambert and all the other leaders from TU and all the other unions, contractors and general, from NUGFW, from Siemens Union, from the Advocate Union, all these other unions. That is what we are working towards, a better Trinidad and Tobago for our children.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Ms. Annisette.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine. And again, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
That was a phone call there with the NATUC General Secretary and SWWTU President, Mr. Michael Annisette, joining us on a phone call there this morning, just giving us some updates on what's happening at JSL International Company. So we're going to toss the news and come right back to the program.